Right, so this episode podcast went down to the Haymaker Gym, which is owned by David Haye. The purpose of it was to train with Ruben Tabares, good friend of mine. He's a nutritionist, he's a sports therapist, and he's also a strength and conditioner for some of the elite fighters and also for VIPs. People like Tiny Temper, Dynamo, of course David Haye, John Terry, the list is endless. And he put me for a really grueling, tough training session. I'm personally getting ready for a fight myself, hopefully in March of this year. And I like to keep fit, so I wanted to have a raw experience of the training. And then I went into a podcast to talk about his story, talk about his knowledge about nutrition, wellness, and training some of the top people. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this this intro is a bit of a disclaimer, because we're in the Haymaker Gym. It's a real life gym, so it's not a, you know, our podcast is not refined. I wanted to keep it very raw, very organic, and you're going to hear people hitting the bag and people training and stuff. And during the podcast, we had Ollie Edwards, who is a pro boxer, 6-0. He's a rising star for the Haymaker boxing promotions. And also David Haye walks in and he actually speaks on the podcast slightly, which is quite interesting, also quite exciting at the same time, because that was unplanned. Again, my message is I want to get out real raw content. It's unrefined, it's unedited, it's just exactly what it is. But I wanted to explain it because as we're speaking, not only have we got all that going on in the background, but the Haymaker Boxing Gym is underneath. It's in an arch, basically, near Vauxhall, and the trains are occasionally passing over. Again, I like it because it's raw, it's organic, it's real, and yeah, it created a bit more atmosphere. So, in case you're wondering, that's exactly what it is. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope you get some value. And please leave a comment if you want to follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on there as well. Thank you very much. And be happy, never content. Here Thursday morning in fresh, cold, frosty London. Going down to the Haymaker Gym to train with Ruben Tabares. And then we're going to do a podcast. Really excited about getting some content out of him. The guy is magnificent when it comes down to strength conditioning, nutrition, wellness, and I think that the world needs to hear some of this stuff. Ruben Tabares, a good friend of mine, on my podcast, so thank you very much,
You're
sir.
Welcome, Steve.
I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
I'm actually humbled that you're on it. You're probably the highest profile person I've had on here so far.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Cool. So over the years, you've become a friend of mine, and I'm always blown away with like some of the content and information that you've got. I think it helps me. It's also helped my family, and anyone I've ever introduced you to, or them to you basically, they've always walked out that meeting and thought that guy knows his stuff. So I felt it was only right to get you onto the podcast and share it with the audience that I've got, because I think it's information second to none.
Oh, thank you.
So providing that people can take the content, get motivated by it, get educated by it, then implement it into their life, I think they can have a massive difference. Whether you're a top athlete or whether you're just a regular person, I think everyone can benefit from it. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
So there's a big audience that know you. Celebrity.
Not that big. I think the public, depends where I go.
Yeah.
If they're boxing fans, they'll recognise me. But I'm more known within athletes and celebrities than the larger public.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a good following on social media. 20,000 on Instagram, and obviously a lot more.
Which I don't do. I'm constantly being nagged that I should do more stuff on social media. But I think I grew up where that age of social media wasn't around. Yeah. So it's really hard for me to do something and then think, I need to post this on social media. It's always an afterthought for me. So I find that a little bit difficult. Whereas my son, I have a 13-year-old son, he thinks completely differently.
Yeah, of course. It's a different culture now. And I think social media, even though wasn't going to go kind of down this path, but it can be a blessing, but also a hindrance at the same time.
Absolutely.
You need to have that balance between knowing how to advertise yourself and put your brand out there by using social media as a platform, but then also if you get pulled into it, it can distract you. And I think it's a good thing to leverage other people to do your social media sometimes, because you're a professional coach, so the best thing you should be doing, or working on your businesses, working on your athletes and that kind of stuff. So anyway, let's just say the people that sort of know you or need to know you, what is your background, who are you, where did you come from, what's your journey?
Okay, so I was born in South America. I was born in Colombia. My mum's side of the family were Spanish, South American. My dad's side of the family, Nigerian, South American. I think my dad's side of the family ended up in South America through the slave trade centuries ago. And I was born there. I came to England when I was about 6 years old. I then went on a journey through first the Royal Ballet School. So I ended up at the Royal Ballet School.
At 13?
No, around 8 years old.
Wow.
So my sister was doing a ballet class at the time in Covent Garden.
Okay.
My mum was a single mum, so she was taking dragging both of us along. Right, so sister's time to do ballet, and I was just watching, and the ballet teacher then suggested, why doesn't he join in instead of just watching? And as it turned out, I was very good at ballet, and a couple of months later there was a scout from the Royal Ballet School. He saw me dancing and he said, we want him over at the Royal Ballet School. Then my sister joined not long after that, and I was there until I was about 13, but then I didn't want my friends to find out I was a ballet dancer, so I said to my mum, I don't want to do ballet anymore, and went straight from ballet to track, football and rugby.
You know what? It's a little bit like a Billy Elliot story, but in reverse. Yeah. You know, like when he was boxing and then converted over to ballet. Yeah. Yours is like similar, but on the reverse of it.
Back in those days, there was no Billy Elliot, so I had no one to, but my mum, who's always been very, very open-minded and very, she was being a bit of a trailblazer, because not only was I doing ballet, I was also playing the piano. So I got to grade 5 piano, and grade 8 is a professional piano player, so I was 3 grades away from that. I was doing the double bass. I was at the Italia Conti School doing jazz. What else was I? I was doing, everything was classical. And went from that to doing sports. And because of all the jumping and all the plyometric work that you do in ballet, I found track work and football and rugby very easy, and I started performing really well. By the age of 15, I was an England international at 400 hurdles, and I won the European Junior Championships in Croatia for 400 hurdles. Then after that, I got ill. I was in bed for 2.5 years. Not going to bore you with a very long story.
I remember you telling me this. Yeah,
I got ill, and it was because of mercury poisoning. What else did I have?
How'd you get that?
Vaccinations, and I must have come into contact with it through somehow. I don't exactly know how.
Nutrition, food, maybe water.
Maybe. And my dad was a biochemist as well, so I was always playing in his laboratory, so that could have played a big part in, he was always saying, don't go in there, and as a 5-year-old boy, that's the first place you go. Of
course.
Because you've been told not to go there. And so, what else did I have? I had all these different viruses, I had a glandular fever, I had all of these different things destroying my immune system. And after I won the European Junior Championships, after that, my body shut down, and I thought it was just a flu. It ended up lasting the flu-like symptoms for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Not getting out of bed, not having any energy, and that's what propelled me onto this path of becoming a nutritionist, a sports therapist, a strength and conditioning coach, studying biomechanics. I go on herb courses, anything that's alternative to the norm, to give me a larger base of knowledge, to then I have a weird way of working things out. So when I read, someone asked me the other day, what nutrition books should I be reading? I don't have an answer for that because I've read so many and I've taken so many things from all of these books, whether it's good or bad, and then I piece them all together in my head, and I think that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then I'll try it on myself, and then it works. And then I'll try it with my clients, because when I learned nutrition, I had more questions than answers. So that's basically my background. And then I went back to running after that, but there was always something not quite right, and it was the nutrition aspect,
right?
Inflammation, all of these different things that now I implement with my clients and people like my son as well, and give them that platform of complete health to then springboard to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to work with all of the people that I've worked with. So people like David Haye, who's probably my most famous client in terms of what I've done with him. So I've been working with him for 10 years up until he retired. And people like P. Diddy, Tiny Temper, Dynamo, Jeremy Piven, all of these people. I've been able to work with them because of what I went through.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change that for the world, because that has given me a foundation for knowledge which not many people have, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, I was going to say there's two things I just picked up on. The first thing is there's a great lesson there. When you go through adversity, it's a natural human instinct or reaction to think, Jesus, I'm going through some shit here. I'm going through a storm, and to panic almost. But if you can keep yourself cool and keep your mind focused, in actual fact, sometimes when you go through adversity, it could be actually the best blessing ever, because what it gets you to do is start thinking about certain things that you can improve on. And as you went through, you're like a case study. You was an athlete, you were living the life of an athlete, you were being probably sponsored, traveling around the world, competing, winning, and then suddenly you go from one extreme to the other. Now you're ill and you can't get out of bed for basically for 2 years. But during that time, now you're on a mission to find out how you can cure yourself, find out exactly what the root problem was, and now turn yourself into a nutritionist and feed your clients these, the superfoods and the right nutritional plans and stuff.
Well, the first time I ever had superfoods was when I was a baby, and my mum had gone to work. She couldn't breastfeed me, and the nanny was giving me coconut water mixed with superfoods as my bottle. So I've been taking superfoods from before, where people knew what they were. So they have a place, and I use them as a nutritional aid. Nothing substitutes food. This is just a nutritional aid. And we'll go into different like veganism and all these things later on if you want. But I feel that the most commonly asked question is, what do I eat? That no one has a clue. And people think they do. And the best thing is for people to start becoming their own scientists. So to start experimenting with food and saying, this works, this doesn't, this bloats me. And then there's certain rules, like, for example, I always have fruit before a meal, not after. Because fruit has a digestion time, so it ferments. If you have a meal and the meal's being digested and you eat fruit afterwards, the fruit just kind of sits on top, starts to ferment, and can give you gas and bloating and those kind of things. So there's a certain order in which you need to eat certain things. But for the most part, what I do to people in their nutrition is take out all of the guesswork and give them basically 20 years of knowledge and of reading and of experimenting, so that they don't have to do that. They just pay for it, and they're like, okay, I know that this is the best thing that I could be on.
The second thing I was going to say is the reason why I called it the Stephen Sulley Study, my podcast, is because it's my ongoing study of people that are successful. Now, it doesn't have to be just financial. It doesn't have to be just about exercise. It could be all different kind of things. Success is completely different to one person to another. I regard you as very, very successful. And the two things that I know you best for is nutrition and obviously strength and conditioning. And then there's other stuff, but they're the main two things when I think about you. And in one of my episodes, I said to anyone who's getting into business for the first time, they talk, a lot of people talk about the business plan, all this kind of stuff. I talk about the first two things you need to do is get your nutrition right and exercise. Because if you can't get those two things right, you have no energy and therefore you won't be able to work your business plan properly. Your best investment you can make is in yourself. So how important do you feel that both of those things are, regardless whether you want to be a pro athlete or just a regular person?
Well, we're all human beings at the end of the day, and like you said, regardless if you're an athlete or you're a business person or you're wanting to go to school, pass
or
exams,
even if you're a mother, for example.
Exactly. The first thing that I would give advice on is water. So if you want to have more energy, you've got to drink water. Okay. Water is the most important thing. I don't think people realize. When I get asked, I think I can count on both hands from the tens of thousands of people that I've ever met in my life who's asked me, what should I be drinking? One of them is you.
Yep.
Because when you're born, you're about 90% water. When you reach adulthood, you're about 70 to 75% water. When you die, you're about 50% water. So from the moment you're born, you're fighting dehydration and you're mainly water. So it makes only sense that you should be worried about what you're drinking and how to best hydrate, and because that makes up the most of you.
Yeah.
And then nutrition, which is highly important. And when you talk about energy and having the energy to be successful, when I was an athlete, I was tired from the sessions that I was doing, because I was training twice a day and pushing my body to the absolute limit. And then when I retired, I was still training, but not to that level. I found that that's when I had the most energy.
Okay.
And so I found a very, very good way of being very fit, having amazing energy, but not pushing yourself over the edge. And so water's the number one thing. And then when it comes to food, I always tell people that food has a certain energy depending on what you're eating. And this has been scientifically proven now. I've spoken to you about this for years, about wavelengths and frequency of food.
I really wanted to come to this because every time I've tried to say it to someone, I feel like I can now say it a bit, but you're the best person to articulate this.
Yeah, so
when you talk about, like, everyone's got fingerprints, but then something which is more accurate is your own frequency, energy levels inside your body. So a superfood opposed to junk food, what's the difference and what does it do to you?
Okay, so basically when you have can we... Oh, that's fine, sorry.
Cool. No problem.
Ollie's here, my boxer.
No problem.
So when you...
We're in a haymaker, just to let everyone know.
Yeah,
so this is a real active gym. This is not just some stage place. This is a real gym in London.
Yeah, and so my boxer who had just signed like a few months ago, he's just turned up to do his training session.
The more raw and real it is, the better.
So basically, when it comes to food and frequencies, so you have a certain frequency that is different to my frequency.
Okay.
And when we're both healthy, it's like a fingerprint. It's like your own unique fingerprint.
Okay.
And this has been scientifically proven. Like I said, you can hook someone up to a machine and they'll give off a frequency. I think there was a guy talking about doing credit cards with your biometric rhythm, so your own rhythm, and that way you can't take someone's fingerprint and clone it and then do fraud on their credit card or whatever, because the person has to be present and there in order to read that frequency. So everyone and everything has a frequency. We've known this for generations, from a chair, a table. It's supposed to have its own frequency. We have our own frequency.
I tested this by, as you well know, I've got problems, stomach, IBS, Crohn's, that kind of stuff, and I went to see a food intolerance specialist, and basically it was a electric charge that was going around this circuit, and they kept on putting different foods into this container.
Yeah.
And once they put the, I don't know what you call it, the end of this this prong or something on my palm, if the frequency went down, it meant that that particular food was not really compatible to my body. And you just said something earlier about being your own scientist, testing certain things. Like I've listened to all your recommendations about certain superfoods, but then, as you well know, certain superfoods, even though they're superfoods, they might not be compatible to me. And I found out that maca was actually making me bloated. Yeah. So it's important to trial and error and to find out what's good for you.
Maca is an amazing superfood. It's an adaptogen, so it helps your body adapt to stress. But it's not for everybody. Yeah. You know, going back to frequencies, when you measure the frequency of certain foods, the higher the nutrient value or the density of that food, the higher the frequency. And when you eat that food, we'll call it food. I was going to say fruit there. When you eat that food, that frequency will nourish your body. Okay. So when you're healthy, you have a certain frequency. If something else comes in, like for example a virus or a bacteria that's not supposed to be in your body, that virus or bacteria has another frequency that's different to yours, so it distorts your frequency, and it makes you feel at dis-ease with yourself. That's where the word disease comes from. Okay. You're at dis-ease. You're no longer at ease with yourself because this thing has come in and distorted your frequency.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
So when you eat food that's high frequency, that food comes in and it nourishes your body by giving you energy. Yeah. And not just on a vitamin, a mineral, and protein and carbohydrate level, but on an energetic level. So when you're happy or in love, if they measure the frequency of you when you're happy or in love, it's a tiny little frequency. And when you have superfood or food that's alive, organic food that's really nutritious for you, the frequency of that food is really small. Okay. So it mimics your frequency. Okay. And when you eat that food, it comes in and touches more sequences along your DNA, and it awakens different parts of your intelligence. Okay. And also the same way that if you're trying to get a rocket into space, you put diesel in the rocket, it's not going to get up to space. You need to put rocket fuel. It's the same thing with food. If you got measured if you were depressed or unhappy, the frequency that you give off when you're depressed or unhappy is a much larger frequency, and it's the same frequency of junk food.
Such as your McDonald's, KFC, all that kind of stuff.
So, or food that's been in the microwave. So. And
why is microwave so bad?
Because anything you put in the microwave, it radiates it, and it kills 97% of the nutrition. The paperwork is out now. When I say this to people before, well, but it's not scientifically proven. It is now. I cut
it out a long time ago, and when you mention it to me, it's all about conditioning, isn't it? Because like when you're born, certainly my mum and dad weren't, so savvy to nutrition, all that kind of stuff. You know, you just listen to them, and then as you grow older and you start researching social media, getting good advice or mentorship by people like yourself, you start to realize actually there's a lot of stuff that I used to believe, like milk, for example, from Sainsbury's. People used to say, or my mum and dad used to say, drink a lot of milk because it's got high in calcium, it's good for your bones and teeth. But obviously that's actually quite far from the truth.
Yeah, no. So we'll go into milk. Just 1 second. Let me finish the frequency thing. So when you are depressed or unhappy, the first thing you go for is junk food, because like attracts like. Yeah. So you go for things that have the same frequency to comfort you, and that's why when we talk about what should you be doing in order to be really, really healthy, first thing is water, next thing is nutrition. The thing after that is cutting things out. So we could go into calcium, for example, in milk and all that kind of stuff. So cutting out dairy and
refined sugars,
wheat, refined carbohydrates, refined sugars, bad salt. So table salt, people should never have table salt because it's just 2 minerals.
What about the pink salt?
So pink salt is different. Pink salt's got 75, 76 different minerals.
What do they call it?
Himalayan pink salt.
That's it.
Celtic sea salt has about 85 minerals. and you need 92 minerals
Okay.
on a daily basis. So why not have a salt that has almost all of them, as opposed to a salt that's just 2 of them and will give you things like high blood pressure, and you start going into complications with your health. It's still salt, but they're night and day. It's the same thing as the boxer that we're working with now, Ollie Edwards. He's on the start of a journey when it comes to his nutrition, all of the things that he's doing, his training and all the rest of it. We haven't even started going into things like taking fluoride out of his toothpaste. So he brushes his teeth with non-fluoridated toothpaste, because that's a toxin, and when that comes into your system, your body realizes that this shouldn't be in my system. Because there's a difference between the organic fluoride that's in your teeth and the non-organic fluoride that they put in toothpaste.
The chemical,
it's a huge difference. And so when you brush your teeth with a fluoridated toothpaste, your liver recognizes this shouldn't be in the system, in the body, so it wraps it in fat and stores it. And it keeps doing that. It will do that with mercury poison, lead pollution from cars. If you've got fillings, black fillings, the mercury in those fillings. And it'll do it with anything that shouldn't be in your system.
And you can find the fluoride in tap water as well.
Yes, in certain areas, not in the area where I live.
Yeah.
I live in Windsor. So
was that on purpose?
Yes, of course it was.
Strategic.
Yeah, so there's no fluoridation of the water in Windsor.
Okay.
So when you take a shower and things like that, it's not as corrosive and not as bad for you. But we have water filters that clean the water even for taking showers and things like that. So the more toxins you can cut out from your system, the better it is. So for example, you talked about calcium. There's been this whole calcium myth about you can absorb calcium from milk. You could if the milk was raw.
Yeah.
But when the milk is pasteurized,
straight from a farm.
Straight from the cow.
Okay.
But when the milk is pasteurized, and it's pasteurized between 120 and 140 degrees Celsius, water boils at 100.
Okay.
So you can imagine it just kills absolutely all the nutrition in the milk.
Yeah.
So now you don't have raw healthy milk.
Right.
You have milk has omega-3 and omega-6.
Okay.
But pasteurizing at those temperatures burns the fat, so you're now drinking burnt fat. It has good bacteria. The reason why they pasteurize it is just in case it has bad bacteria. But you're now killing all the bacteria, good or bad, in the milk. But it's not fished out. It's not taken out of the milk. You've got dead bacteria in the milk, and now you're drinking that. So then you're toxifying your body with that. So when you're talking about high levels of performance, you're looking at all of those little things. You're taking them out of the equation and bringing in things that create a breeding ground for amazing athletic performance. And that whether you're an athlete or a business person or a mum, you're now finding levels of energy which you didn't think were possible.
Yeah.
Because you're not bringing in toxins, you've taken out
a
lot of the things which cause inflammation in the body, like milk and wheat, because the wheat around today has been hybridized, and the original wheat had a very soft glutinous structure, whereas the wheat now has a gluten structure which is far tougher for our bodies to digest, and so we're unable to. So that's why there's so many people with gluten intolerances and things like that.
Right.
So what I try to do as a performance expert is I try to take all of the thinking out of the person. So I'll educate them as we go along so that they know and understand what they're doing, but I take all of that, what should I be doing, all of those questions, I take that out of the equation and give them a plan for amazing health and amazing performance. And like I said, whether they're an athlete or a mum.
Okay. So the 3 takeaways from that then
Mm-hmm.
is increase your water,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're getting the right water,
Yeah.
avoid tap water,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe have bottled water or something a little
And
bit
if
more
it's
cleaner.
going to be bottled water, then it has to be glass. Not plastic.
Okay, because the plastic
or
seeps into the water.
The best thing you can do is invest in a good water filtration system,
Okay,
and it'll be expensive at the beginning, but it will save you in the long run.
it will
in
pay you
terms of
dividends later on.
finances and also in how you feel.
Yeah. The second thing is to cut out anything like dairy, wheat, refined sugars,
Yeah.
anything which is going to be bad for your body. It's going to drain your energy, basically.
Yeah.
Get yourself educated on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one is introduce certain foods that are going to give you a higher frequency.
Yeah. So
what could them foods be?
anything that's raw. Raw food is really important, and we should be eating a lot of raw food. Also, things like bone broth.
Okay.
I make, if I do say so myself, after so many years of making bone broth, I make a very, very good bone broth, and bone broth is very healing.
Right.
So, especially it heals the gut. So you should be taking a lot of bone broth.
Okay.
You should be taking like a warm shot of like half a cup of bone broth
Okay.
every day,
Okay.
and you take it maybe Monday to Friday and have the weekend off from it, or Monday to Thursday and have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Salads, lots of oils. So when people see me eat, I have a lot of oil on my food. So I put pumpkin seed oil, hemp seed oil, olive oil, coconut oil,
Okay.
all in the same meal.
And why is that? Why is that important?
Because fats have been vilified for a very long time, and fats are very important for you. Your brain is 90% fat. When a mother's breastfeeding, most of that breast milk is fat. And so, give me 1 second. Ollie, how did you park your car?
Near the lockers.
Is it far enough across? Make sure, because I think David's coming in now.
Hello, Ollie, by the way.
Are you there? You are, right?
Yeah, all good.
I didn't wanna-
I'll give you a little shout out
Yeah.
on my
Oh,
podcast.
Um,
We'll keep all this in anyway, it's raw.
Yeah, I can let you about the video maybe, but yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, so it's just David arriving.
all good.
So, so basically, fats have been vilified. Fats are very important. When mum is breastfeeding her child, her diet needs to be very high in fat.
Yeah.
Because if it's not, the body will find a way, and it'll start to take fat from the brain, because it's very highly nutritious, to turn that into breast milk. And then the mum may find that she starts to get depressed, because then her cognitive function, all her brain function is not working like it should be, because now you've got a leak.
Yeah.
You know, so all of that kind of stuff is very important. So that's why I eat a lot of fat. It lubricates my joints. You know, it gives me a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
So the nutrition is very, very important. As I mentioned, my other episodes, I talk to anyone getting into business, anyone who's going to be a family person for the
What's
first
going on, Dave?
time. Hello, David. Anyone who's wants to push herself.
just do this.
Anyone who's going to be pushing herself, they need nutrition. But then on the other side of it is the training.
Yeah.
So how important is training, regardless whether you're an athlete or whether you're just a regular person?
Well, especially now I'm getting older, I realise that training is one of the most important things for longevity.
Yeah.
I want to get to 50, 60, 80, 90 years old and still be able to do all of the things that I'm doing now. And I want to get there and then all of a sudden think, I can't get out of bed, I'm riddled with arthritis.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things. So obviously nutrition comes in first, but when it comes to training, the most important thing for longevity, for athletes, for anybody, is strength training.
Okay.
That is if you're going to take anything away from this podcast, is make sure you carry on doing your strength work. For performance, it makes life a hell of a lot easier when it comes to athletic performance. and for longevity in general, it just makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I feel like training as a twofold thing. It's obviously physically great, makes you feel great. If you're feeling great, you're going to come into a room, you're going to change the energy of it in a positive way. Your business, your family, I mean, it does wonders.
Yeah.
But then also for your mindset. There are days, even with the billionaires in the world or the top people in the world, that they're going to go through an element of stress. So personally, how can you release that stress unless you're training? So how important do you think it is for the mindset?
I think it's very, very important to do something which takes you out of a routine that you have. For example, if you're in a very stressful routine as a business person, if you can come out of that for an hour and put your hands in a good trainer that understands, right, we need to go here, because throughout that hour and a half, 45 minutes, whatever it is that person's training, they're not thinking about that stress. So their body's releasing good endorphins.
Got a high euphoria,
exactly. And you're not thinking about that, so you're getting respite from it.
And funny enough, I spoke about on one of the other episodes about the reason why investing into a personal trainer. I mean, look, not everyone can afford a personal trainer from the get-go, but when you can, invest some of your money into it, because I like going to a gym. Like, for example, we trained earlier. I had no idea what was going to happen. I just had my faith in you because you're a professional. And for an hour, I don't have to think. You just put me through the pain and all the exercises, and I just go with it. But then the other recommendation I say to people, invest into personal trainers, good at the strength and conditioning, nutrition, if you can, but someone that lives that life themselves and also has a good mindset. Because I've seen personal trainers that, when they're training people, they're a little bit out of shape themselves, so they don't live that life. They're on their phone constantly, so they're not focusing on their client, and then they're very negative about life. They'll put all their kind of bullshit onto their client, and that's not what you want. You want to go to a personal trainer that makes you feel good and gets your mind in check, and someone that's accountable. That's important as well, right?
I think for a lot of reasons, people should start looking more into strength and conditioning coaches as well. Because, or someone who can do both, because they'll have a better understanding. Unfortunately, a lot of personal training courses are just 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden you're asking someone who's done a 6-week training course to look after your body. Doesn't always pan out well. And yes, you're right, not everyone can afford a personal trainer, but that's why I get asked a lot if I do online training sessions and things like that. So I've been asked that question for years now, and seeing people like the body coach do stuff, and don't get me wrong, I'm not vilifying the body coach. I think he's good, he's energetic, and he gets people off the sofa and moving and paying for sessions online and stuff. But there's a lot of holes. It's just it's not something that I would what's the word?
I think the difference is, and I might be talking out of turn because I don't know so much about him. I know obviously he's a success, and he is very like a fun kind of person. And I follow I actually follow some of his recipes, and they're really, really nice. I'm currently actually doing a vegetarian one. He just brought out a book, so I'm following that. But he's more like the general person, and he supports like people just trying to get fit and trying to be better. But you focus on athletes. You've worked with some of the top athletes in the world.
But that's not to say I can't work with everybody.
Sure.
I just work at a higher. I work in a different plane
sector.
Because it's all about high performance. Not generalizing so much.
Because you were an athlete yourself as well.
But from the amount of people asking me if I do something online because they may live in America or Hungary, Budapest, China. I had a guy who was coming from China every couple of months just to train with me. I'm like, surely there are better trainers in China than you're making out. And he said, no. He said, I need to come here to see you until I've learned what I need to do. And he did. And I said, now you can follow this. And then once in a while sends me an email and I look at his program, make comment on it. So I'm going to be bringing out something online
Yeah.
So people can buy it and they can go through the process of what an athlete would go through, but they can do it in the comfort of their own home.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be looking into that in the next month or so, and then I'll let everyone know when it's out. They can go and purchase it. So if you can't afford a personal trainer, at least we'll have coaches that will keep an eye on people.
Okay.
And be like, okay, you're doing that right. You're not doing this right. Try it like this, etc., etc. And it won't be as expensive as, you know, working with a personal trainer every single day.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So there's only a couple more things I want to ask you. So, business.
Yeah.
You are a businessman.
I've been begrudgingly turned into one.
I think it's natural progression, though.
Yeah. I thought I wasn't until I'm doing all of these things, and I'm looking to open a gym, and I'm writing a book as well.
Okay.
It should be out next year. I'm looking after boxers now and all these kind of things. So it's all based around health, which is my absolute passion.
Okay.
I absolutely love it. I have done it ever since I got healthy 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the main goals you got for personally, family, business, 5 years, 10 years from now, where do you want to see yourself?
I want to set up a company that looks after talent from very young age.
Yeah.
Into turning them into the best possible version of what they could have ever thought they could turn into, and looking after that process all the way through. And then also I like taking people that people think, oh, he could never become world champion at boxing or athletics or whatever, and turning them around.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Or people with specific conditions, and I've been to the doctor and no one can help me.
Yeah.
What can I do? And taking that and saying, right, let's do these things, and making a difference, because I've done it for so many years.
Yeah.
I like problem solving.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the reason why Mimbosa was set up, to set up a community where people can become the best version of them. As you well know, the line to it is the pursuit to perfection in the 21st century. So you're pursuing that perfection all the time as a lifestyle. Yeah. Okay, so obviously from going from like an athlete, having problems, looking into these problems, overcoming them, how did you make that transition from being an athlete yourself, but then starting to work with top athletes? How did you get involved with the David Hayes and obviously these rising stars like Ollie Edwards and Tiny Tempers and all these kind of people? How did you get involved with these people?
So when I was an athlete and I had some injuries, I had to going to different physios, doctors, osteopaths, sports therapists, massage therapists, everybody. I was going, acupuncturists, and no one could help me. So I had to start problem solving myself. And there was an athlete called Denise Lewis, Olympic champion at heptathlon,
right?
British Olympic champion, and she asked me about her Achilles once, and she said, "Oh, I heard you had this, and what did you do?" So I told her. She said, "Oh, that really worked, thank you." And then I had some other athletes ask me similar things, and then I thought, "Oh, do you know what? I really like that. I like helping people." So when I started studying strength and conditioning, sports therapy, anatomy and physiology, all of those things to get even more of an understanding of what I was doing. And then back in 2002, I went to train with an athlete called Michael Olajide, who was a middleweight boxer. I think he fought Marvin Hagler or Hearns, or he was that era. And that's when I first started working with boxers. And then in 2008, I started through Peter Marcasiano. I met David Haye, and that's when we first started working together. And he said, "Oh, I'm cramping. I've got a leg problem." I helped him with that within a short space of time, and then it just spiraled from there. And then not long after that, I helped David become heavyweight champion of the world, and then everybody comes calling.
And then you had Amir Khan,
George Groves, trained Derek Chisora now, Joe Joyce.
They're the boxers you have footballers, John Terry, rugby players.
Danny Cipriani, people like that. I'm just naming the people that people at home would know.
Yeah. Then you got celebrities like Dynamo,
Tiny Temper, P Diddy, Mickey Rourke, Jeremy Piven,
and
Kate Upton,
there is
Naomi Watts.
There's that old kind of cliche saying like your net worth is determined by your network.
Yeah.
And I do honestly believe in that saying. I feel that if you know what you were saying about like attracts like. So when you're feeling down, depressed and fearful, anxiety, you want to go to things like junk food, sugars, maybe even alcohol. But when you're feeling upbeat, you want to stay away from them things and want to eat right stuff. And that's so true with humans. So the more you can get around the right people, I think it can expand your network, and then it can help you in anything, whether you want to get fit,
and
business.
Also, the same way that those people see you as a springboard to get healthy, the people around you, you need to see as a springboard to get successful.
Of course.
You know, and you just see, they're doing this, they're doing that, I want to do that too. So it works.
Yeah.
It works really well.
So like negative people will drain you, and then obviously the positive people, right people, will springboard you to the next level.
Absolutely.
So important. All right, well look, I always say at the end of my podcast that it's like a catchphrase, be happy, never content. And the reason why I say that is because I feel that being happy is like a state of mind, but then you got a conflicting bit at the end, which is never content. And some people say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, the reason why I say that is because never content for me means that I'm happy, but I'm pursuing always something better.
Contentment.
So what does that mean to you when I say be happy, never content?
Well, it's a similar thing. So for me, I'm always happy, no matter what's going on. Even throughout that tough period in my life, I was happy and grateful, which is a really strong emotion, to be doing the things that I was doing and learning the things that I was doing. But never content, as in no matter how far I get or how much I do in my life or how far I go, I'm never content to stay there. So I always want to reach for another star and another star and another star. Yeah.
And the last thing I was going to say is like working with all these great people, businesses, nutrition, you're always studying, you're always around the right people. Then you got a family, beautiful wife, 2 beautiful, great children.
Yeah,
how do you balance that?
Timekeeping. You keep to a schedule. You try and,
disciplined on it.
Yeah, disciplined. I'm very lucky that my wife is got a degree in business and marketing. So she's taught me a lot about financing and...
I have to say she's a very switched on lady.
Yeah, she is.
Emma is messaging her all the time now, even including me, and asking her some advice and stuff.
Yeah, no, she's incredibly intelligent. Not just saying this because she's my wife, but she's very beautiful as well, and inside and out. And she's taught me a lot. And I can honestly say, only since I met her, I started becoming more successful.
Yeah.
Because she thinks in a way that my mind doesn't work that way. I'm more health and sport, that kind of thing. She's very creative and she's very business savvy.
Yeah.
And so she's helped me monetize a lot of things where I didn't know they could be monetized and things like that. So, as you know, from your partner, when you have a good partner, whether in business or in life, you're only going to be even more successful. Yeah.
So investing into a good relationship is absolutely key.
Paramount. It's paramount. And I think you have to know who you are as a person first to then attract the right person. If you don't know or you're on a journey, you'll meet a person that's on that piece of journey at that time as well.
Yeah.
Then you'll get to where you need to get to, and they'll still be there.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you the same way that you would invest in a business, you know how to invest in your partner.
Yeah. So that's why getting healthy, nutrition, fitness, and getting yourself educated, you will attract the right person into your life.
Absolutely.
So where can everyone find you if they want to find you?
Just Ruben Tabares Wellness is my Instagram. I think Ruben Tabares on Twitter and rubentabares.com.
Okay.
My website.
And any final things you want to say? Any messages?
If people want to change anything in their life, try and change one thing and stick to it for a month.
Okay.
So if you've got a New Year's resolution, don't try and change everything at the same time. Try and change one thing every month. So you've got 12 things to change in essence throughout. Because it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to allow something to become a habit in your life. So get used to one thing and then change. So instead of going, I'm going to cut out wheat, dairy, coffee, tea.
And it's a drastic change.
And it's a drastic change. Carry on doing all of those things and just say, I'm going to drink more water. Just carry on drinking.
And then start
water.
eliminating things one by one.
Exactly.
Okay, wicked. Epic. Thank you very much, bro.
You're welcome, Steve.
Thank you. All right.